Hello everyone, this is Kat and welcome back to My Hero Academia Podfics. This will be the continuation of Fallen Baby Birds. This will be Part 2, Chapter 2, entitled Home is Safe. So, apparently, bringing home 2 homeless children that you found on the side of the road in the middle of the night shouldn't be a way to surprise your husband. Maybe send him a text ahead of time, yeah. Shouta, did you go— Hizashi freezes as Shouta makes eye contact with the blonde, very clearly holding not 1 but 2 children. What? And his voice is forced into a whisper when Aizawa's quirk activates to stop the surprised yelling that Mike's eyes immediately are darting to the slumbering children. Right. Sleeping. Keep your voice down, for now. I'd much rather explain in the morning. The tired man says simply, taking a short stroll over to the couch and plopping the children onto it with care. Aizawa looks up to Hizashi with an eyebrow raised, after making sure that Kego wouldn't wake up. He wasn't too concerned with Izuku. The poor kid was out like a light, but Kego, the kid was certainly nervous. Why are you up at— He checks the clock on the wall. Midnight. I couldn't sleep. Hizashi sighs and squints when Aizawa waves his hand for the man to elaborate. Bed was too cold. Shota's eyes soften. God damn it. He's weak for a clingy, loud bird man. Well, now you've just been assigned the role of helping me get 2 possibly traumatized children cleaned and settled down for the night. Aizawa deadpans. You'll get that warm bed in a few hours, probably. Hizashi only snorts, accepting his fate, and walking around to the front of the couch, he gives the children a long look, heart panging at the sight of the grime and the dried blood. I'm fine with this role. Another fond look is thrown his way, and a hand reaches toward him in order to give him a firm squeeze. Hizashi hums. All right, which kid do I get? He's already running a gentle hand through muddy green curls, concern evident in the action alone. Aizawa doesn't say anything at first, and Hizashi watches as the man sits with the kid with the red wings and he cups one of his cheeks into his hand. He has his thumb softly caressing underneath his eye, and the boy slowly flickers awake. Aizawa retracts his hand as soon as the boy starts to make sense of the world, a deep frown staining his face. You with me, kiddo? Kego bows his head before nodding. Hands grasping at the couch below. Tiny talons make themselves known, leaving little scratches at the surface of the fabric. These were 2 adults. He was inside of a building. He had to be good. Would you like to get cleaned up now or meet Hizashi first? Get cleaned up or meet— Wait, what? The kid's head shoots up, and his eyes dart over to the blonde, who still has his hand gently placed on Izuku's head, and oh, Kego doesn't like that. He doesn't process his next actions completely, tiny hands picking up Izuku swiftly and feet dashing across to the corner of the room. He presses himself against the wall and holds Izuku to his chest closely. He needs to protect him. The tiny hatchling in question doesn't quite awaken, however he does whine in complaint while asleep. Shit. Aizawa stands from where he was crouched, looking over to the winged boy in the corner of the room. Kego tries to make his scariest face, and Aizawa frowns, but before he can speak, Hizashi takes the lead and steps carefully in front of Kego. There's still enough distance between them that the boy could run if he wanted to, but close enough that Hizashi could speak in hushed tones and the kid could still hear. Mike crouches down and sits on the floor, getting face to face with the hawk. Aizawa sits himself down on the couch, leaning over just a bit so that he could still see what was happening and help when needed. He trusted his husband. Hey, a listener. Hizashi smiles warmly. Do you know who I am? Kego's defensive stance doesn't lessen, and he bares his tiny teeth as if daring Yamada to come closer. Though those teeth could probably only leave a little mark, they weren't too sharp for reasons the hawk would never talk about. Nonetheless, Kego processes the question at a snail's pace, and his scary face settles into a frown again. He shakes his head slowly. No, he has no idea who this blonde was, and he was scared about that. He did know who Aizawa was, however. Kego's eyes flicker over to the tired man in question for a split second, turning back onto Hizashi right after. That's just fine. You know who Aizawa is, don't you, though? The smile just doesn't leave, and it's certainly different from the way that Aizawa had approached him before. Aizawa didn't smile or show any doubt in wanting to help Kego. It was blunt honesty, no attempts to put on a cheery expression just for a kid's trust. But Hizashi, his smile was bright and his actions were too, but it wasn't fake. Kego knew what fake enthusiasm looked like. He's known it for years, and this wasn't it. It was almost infectious. Kego nods, fidgeting in place when he no longer leans against the wall. Zawa is nice. He pauses, soaking in Hizashi's encouraging look to keep going. You, who? Hizashi Yamada, but you can just call me Hizashi. Mike feels Aizawa's hand on his shoulder, the man settling right beside him and momentarily startling Kego. Want to tell me your name? Kego looks up between Hizashi and Shouta. Were they? He's confused. Friends? Brothers? Wait, what was the question? Oh, yeah. Kego Takemi. And Izuku. Kego mumbles, readjusting his grip on the hatchling in his arms and making sure that he was comfortable, still asleep. He wishes he could do that right now. But just Kego. Just call you Kego? Hizashi watches the nod and confirmation come from Kego, and he gives a thumbs up. Sounds good, Kego. Do you think that you could take a bath right now, little listener? The question makes Kego tilt his head in pure, utter confusion. Take a bath? Not a shower. Has he ever taken a bath? Does this even matter? It's just another way of getting clean, right? So he looks down to Izuku, then looks up to Aizawa. Do you remember what I said about home, kid? The man asks, and Kego blinks. Another question. What's with all the... Wait. Home is safe. Aizawa nods, and Kego doesn't quite calm down, but he does relax a little. Aizawa said he wasn't a bad adult, and Hizashi doesn't seem like he's bad either. Home is safe. Does he really have any other choices other than to trust the two in front of him? Trusting is so hard. Okay, Kego murmurs into the green curls beneath his chin. At least Izuku will be with him. One step at a time, kid, Aizawa says as he stands up, lending out a hand toward the boy. Huh? Kego determines that he does not like confusion. One step at a time. You don't have to trust us immediately, but I hope that you will someday. For now, let's focus on getting cleaned up and rested. Still doesn't completely explain it, but Kego understands on a certain level as he takes the tired man's hand. Wait, someday? Shouta, are we adopting? Hizashi's whoosh as he stands up is so sudden that it makes Kego squeak in surprise and hide behind Shouta's leg, embarrassingly. Aizawa doesn't say a word as he shoots a cryptic look to Hizashi. What does this mean? Oh my god, we are! Aizawa continues to stay quiet as he picks up Kego and Izuku in one swift movement, walking over to the bathroom as Hizashi continues to ramble on. The noise is somehow comforting. It's so different from the complete and utter silence of his white room back at the commission. It's nice. After the very confusing bath is done, yes, confusing, so confusing because he loved it, and splashing is fun, so are bubbles. He can blow them and they go flying into Aizawa's face. It was hard to enjoy it, however. Izuku being asleep the entire time he was getting washed worried the boy. Aizawa tried to reassure him that it was just exhaustion, but the Hawks' instincts were thrown off the hook. He wanted to hold Izuku and to shelter him from everything. It felt weird, especially since he's only known Izuku for a day. But he finds himself feeling the same toward the two adults that now tuck him into the guest bedroom's bed after eating a good meal and changing into warm clothing. These clothes are a tad too big for the both of them, but they work for now. It's not the same feeling that he has toward Izuku. With Izuku, it's just overly protective and warm. With the adults, it's warm and safe. Safe, yeah, that's the feeling. This is what safe feels like. He likes it. We'll be in the room down the hall. You remember which one, right? Hizashi questions as he places a much more plush pillow underneath Kego's head. The kid nods, yawning and shifting to lie on his stomach, much more comfy. Wings don't like to be pinned. They need to be free. When they're free, they also serve as a good small roof to Izuku. That's very important. He tugs the hatchling closer. Let us know if Izuku wakes up. He needs to eat when he can. Aizawa mumbles softly, earning another small nod from Kego as the bird drifts off into the land asleep. Aizawa sighs as he stares at the two children huddled underneath the covers, Hizashi's words from earlier lingering in his mind and making their home in his heart. Are we adopting? Shit. He's too far in already to say no to that now, isn't he? We're adopting them, Hizashi says firmly as he turns to his husband, making Aizawa snort. Probably, yeah. Now let's go probably get that warm bed for the night. Aizawa walks out of the room and hides his fond smile at the small whoop that comes from Hizashi. He never thought he'd have kids, honestly, but he wasn't against it, and Hizashi always seemed to bring the topic up when seeing them out in public. And sure, they were young, but might as well go with what life throws at you, and also know he didn't want to give up his kids. His kids, oh God, yeah, that's why he's going along with this so easily. They're already his, and he barely knows anything about them, but damn if he doesn't want to do everything he can for them. He may need a lesson on not adopting everything that comes his way. If he can learn through resisting every cat that he comes across, he can surely learn the same thing with kids, right? That may be a little harder than he thinks, but that'll be a future problem for future Aizawa. Present Aizawa now has 2 kids that he refuses to give up on that easily. And besides, if they were to ever get more kids in the future, he's pretty sure that Hizashi wouldn't mind one bit. The joys of having a husband that actually loves kids. Maybe he can get away with getting another cat, too. Shit, wait. He forgot to feed the cats. Maybe not. He hears the ruffle of a food bag being shaken and 2 loud meows in the kitchen. Ah, he has the best husband, doesn't he? 2 cats, 2 kids, a husband. Not too bad of a life. Now then, who's he going to have to kill tomorrow for harming his 2 kids? Turns out he won't have to do any killing, much to his dismay, because that job now belongs to Nezu. An explanation for this, well, that morning he explained the situation in more detail to Hizashi, the man himself getting visibly upset at the idea that someone would leave just 2 kids in an alleyway, although, based on the shape that Kego was in versus Izuku, Aizawa believes that there was something more to this, but they can't get all the answers quite yet, not without trust and care. Whatever happened to the 2, however, Aizawa has a nasty feeling that he'll have to get a statement from both of the kids, just to back up any evidence and to make sure that he can keep his 2 problem children. Getting statements wouldn't have originally been an issue if they were just both abandoned. Usually, parents who abandon their kids have no intent to take them back, and the process goes much quicker adoption-wise. But the first thing Aizawa sees on his phone that morning after talking with Hizashi is an alert for a lost child, with a very similar face plastered on the headline. Kego Takemi, age 11, bright red wings, please return to the Hero Commission when possible, parents are looking for him. Aizawa calls bullshit. He is not getting any good feelings from it. Hizashi has to calm the tired man down before he goes bursting out the door, as there's a much easier solution to this, calling Nezu, the Hero Commission's #1 problem. Bless his husband and his clear-headedness in the mornings. As he sends Nezu a text asking if he could come over sometime that afternoon, and later he'd have to call to explain, the bedroom door creaks open. Aizawa remains sitting on the bed, patiently waiting as the door opens further. The shower runs in the background, Hizashi already in the bathroom and getting ready for what the day might entail. It was probably for the best, just until Kego saw Aizawa first and settled down. Waking up in a new environment was always going to be scary, but it seems that he doesn't have to make the first move in going to the kids first. The hawk peeks through, fidgeting and clearly uncomfortable, but he looks well-rested, and that's a good thing. No nightmares. Izuku settled into his arms, held as if he was something precious to the bird. The hatchling's eyes are bleary, riddled with confusion, and still sleepy. Aizawa waits. Kego fidgets again, entering and passing the door, stepping until he's right in front of the man. Izuku doesn't fully process this. He's blinking slowly up at Kego and not quite looking anywhere else. Seems like Kego is the only thing in the kid's world right now. And he probably is, taking comfort in the person that helped him instead of leaving him. Aizawa didn't know what their relationship was. Definitely brotherly, but were they brothers? They couldn't be. The Hero Commission was only looking for one Takemi after all. He didn't even know Izuku's last name. It would be really easy to assume that also Takemi, Kego, only giving Aizawa the first name and no last name. But it wouldn't be true because, again, the Hero Commission is only looking for one. They also don't look too similar, but Aizawa couldn't judge based off of that. Adoptions exist after all. But the best explanation is that Kego found the kid while he was out, formed an instant connection with the small boy, and refused to put him down. But how long was Kego out on the streets before Aizawa had found him? Couldn't have been long based on the Hero Commission's post. As for Izuku, it had to have been the same thing, the boy perhaps out for a day or 2 at most. If this is the case, thank God he found them so early, before someone else got to them or worse. So, a kid that was essentially forced to be a soldier for the Hero Commission, and a kid that was abandoned by his parents. For what reasons? The hawk frowns, hesitant to say anything, and Aizawa takes note. Kid. Kego's eyes snap up to meet the man's. Never be afraid to ask me for anything. Same goes for Hizashi. He and I are here for you. Sometimes the answer will be no, but we'll never be mad at you for asking for something. The boy takes in the words, and he lets out a shaky breath of air. Why is he so nice? Thank you. Izuku needs food. Hell yeah, no stuttering. He's not counting the repeat of you. That was 100% intentional. Kego blinks at his own thoughts. Getting his self-confidence back completely was not going to be easy, but if Aizawa says that he can speak up, then it makes things easier, at least around him and the loud man. Speaking of, Hizashi must be in the shower. Was he humming to himself in there? Of course, kid. Kego gets startled out of his thoughts once more and watches as Aizawa stands up, gesturing gently toward the door. The hawk immediately nods his head, taking the lead and walking out. He waits for Aizawa to exit, letting him walk forward toward the kitchen first, and he felt that it was safer that way. He didn't exactly know the layout of the house that well yet. It wouldn't take him long to learn. Like it or not, he learned to be observant of his surroundings through his handlers. It was an instinct that he was forced to hone in on, and it wasn't exactly a bad one. The origins were distasteful, however. Kego startles at the squeaky sound of a kitchen chair being pulled out and looks over to where Aizawa was motioning for him to sit down. Oh. He fumbles over and onto the chair, making sure that Izuku is comfy in his lap before refocusing on Aizawa. The man opens the fridge and takes a long look. Anything that you want in specific? I'm going to make Izuku some eggs, to try and get something nutritious into him at least, but I can also make pancakes or bacon. He sends Kego a thoughtful look, and the hawk tilts his head. Is it bad if I don't know what, pancakes are? Kego pauses, looking down at Izuku, who starts to fidget. Or what any of what you, said tastes like. Aizawa almost breaks the fridge handle, but he resists. What the hell were they feeding this kid? We'll do everything then, he says bluntly, and almost misses the way that Kego's face lights up. This won't make the conversation he has to have with the boy later easier, will it? As he's getting out the frying pan, his head whips over to where he hears a sudden whimper. Shit. Izuku's visibly crying, his little heart out, cheeks and eyes reddening with stress. Every little whine and quiet sob makes Aizawa falter in his step, knowing that he can't do anything. Not yet. He hasn't properly introduced himself to Izuku yet, and neither had Hizashi. He had to leave the 11-year-old, who found Izuku first to calm the kid down, but at least it seemed like he was doing a pretty decent job at it. Izuku hadn't worked his way into a panic attack of any sorts. The gentle whispers coming from Kego shushing any whimper or cry, and the hawk hugs the boy closely with one hand, the other petting gently through green, fluffy curls. He was a good kid, Aizawa thinks as he cracks an egg into the pan. How dare the Hero Commission use that to their advantage? The man glances over to Hizashi, who enters with quiet steps. Hair still wet but tied into a messy bun, his eyes linger on the two kids for a moment, saddened at the sight but warm with care. Hizashi looks away in order to not ruin or interrupt Kego's concentration. Do you want to go take a shower and give Nezu a call while I take over here? Hizashi questions quietly, already opening up the pancake mix in order to help either way. He fucking loves his husband. Yeah, that's right, he said it again. Yeah, give me 1 second. Aizawa murmurs and hands over the egg-making to Hizashi and is taking soft steps over to the kids that are sitting down. He watches for a moment as Izuku settles down to sniffles and is now being bounced gently up and down on Kego's lap, but still held close. Kego glances up at the man, and Aizawa frowns softly at that tired look that the poor kid has. I'm gonna take a shower real quick, yeah? I'll be back out soon. Hizashi's going to continue cooking for me, is that all right? He questions slowly, looking for any source of stress written on Kego's face. However, at the words he finds none, watching as the hawk nods slowly. Okay, I'll be back. Aizawa walks away from the kitchen table and gives Hizashi a peck on the cheek as he walks by and toward his room. Time to freshen up and make a call. Nezu was more than happy to come over, and he sounded overly chipper on the phone, and Aizawa would fear for the Hero Commission's safety if he himself didn't want them ruined. As he walks back out of his room, his hair now wet and tied up from his shower, he blinks over at the scene in front of him. Hizashi was sitting down at the table, looking between concerned and amused. The explanation for that seems to be Kego, the kid's plate having a good amount of food, already eaten off of it, but Izuku's almost empty. Kego's expression was one of delight and struggle, while Izuku was still sleepy, eyes still red, but more content, however, now having food in his belly. Aizawa takes his plate from the counter, and he sits down next to Hizashi. The two kids have not startled, as they're so absorbed into the food and each other to pay attention. Before Aizawa can say anything, Hizashi lets out a quiet snort. The tired man raises an eyebrow at his husband, and the man in question just shakes his head. Keigo's face, when he took a first bite out of his breakfast, was too good not to get a picture of. Hizashi murmured, keeping his voice down low so the kids wouldn't hear. He pulls out his phone and switches it on, flipping immediately to a picture of Kego. The kid's eyes are wide, and he's clearly shocked, the fork sticking in his mouth. Izuku is just tiredly looking up at the hawk, making grabby hands for another bite, after clearly having a first few bites of his own meal. It's adorable. Aizawa hides his smile under a frown, or as Hizashi liked to call it, it's a caring frown. So, the man speaks up a little louder than a whisper, gaining the attention of not just Kego this time, but Izuku too. The small boy's focus getting more clear, sleep and food helping with it. Are you enjoying breakfast? Kego takes a moment to process the question before rapidly nodding, Izuku squeaking at the movement and softly tapping Kego's chest to get him to stop. Kego just gives Izuku a nuzzle to the cheek before looking back over at Aizawa. I really like the eggs. The pancakes and the bacon were really good too. The pancakes were really sweet, but Hizashi says it's because of the syrup. I think the pancakes taste kind of plain without it. Kego pokes at one of the small, dry pancakes that are left over on his plate, and he hums. The bacon is salty. I like salty, but the eggs were the best. I don't know. Aizawa was mildly taken aback by the commentary on breakfast, as this is the most that Kego has spoken at once so far, but he's pleased by it, humming his agreement to the hawk. The kid flushes in realization, but he doesn't say anything about his own small ramble as he takes another bite of the bacon. I'm glad, kid. Kego only nods with a shrug, seemingly done with his breakfast as he starts to sway from side to side with Izuku. The hatchling ate his whole plate, having been hungry and now seems to be settling down for a nap. Aizawa doesn't blame the kid. He's had a rough night, and the crying didn't help that. Seems like Aizawa won't be getting any answers out of the 4-year-old for a while, though, but that's okay. He's patient, and right now Kego's the main concern regarding the people trying to get him back. Kid. Aizawa pauses, hesitating even as he has the attention of the kid now on him. Yeah? Kego's voice is soft, intentional as to not wake up the now sleeping Izuku. Hizashi stands up, giving Aizawa a nudge on the back and a gesture toward the couch. Right. Let's go sit on the couch. I need to talk with you about something. Is that okay? It's never forceful. He always gives Kego options. A way out. Kego stands up with a nod. It's his choice, not someone else's. Kego likes that. He likes making his own choices. It's quiet as they sit down on the couch, only the sound of a bird tweeting outside occasionally and the wind blowing a tree branch against one of the windows. Kego crosses his legs on the couch, placing Izuku onto them and hugging him close. All right, little listener. Hizashi's voice is soothing, although Kego is still confused about the little listener part. He'll just ask later. We'll try to get through this as quickly as we can, or whatever works for you, okay? Kego nods, and Hizashi smiles. Me and Hizashi will be getting a statement from you. I know that it's early, kid, but the sooner that we do this, the better. Aizawa takes a seat on the lounge chair, and Hizashi just sits on the floor next to the coffee table. Both have a pen and a notebook and a recording device. Definitely a recording device. Hawks recognizes it. His handler would use it quite often to document his improvement. A shudder passes through him. Aizawa seems to notice and grabs the device off the table. He hands it over to Kego, and the kid takes it with great hesitance. It's safe, kid, but we will need to record your voice for this. We don't have to do this now if you think that you're not ready, but this will help you to stay here, or let you go wherever you want to go if you decide that you don't want to be here. Aizawa explains as Kego flips around the device. It wasn't so bad now that he had a closer look. Just a few buttons and no red lights like how the handler had. Wait, stay here? Did he just say that? I can really stay here? Kego doesn't even process his stutter this time. It's not worth it. Not when he's been offered so much in so little time. Does he even deserve it? Yeah, Kego, if you'll let us, we'd be more than willing to have you here. You and Izuku. Him and Izuku. He can stay with Izuku. His grip on Izuku tightens, and he hands back the recording device with a shaky hand. Okay, what do I need to do? Hizashi and Aizawa both share a warm glance, Hizashi speaking up. I'll start by asking you a few easier questions, and then Shouta here, he'll move on to some of the more harder topics. That sound good, baby bird? Kego squeaks at the sudden nickname from Hizashi, hiding his eyes with one arm and nodding. Yeah, go ahead. Aizawa manages to pry away the arm from the hawk's eyes before they begin, Aizawa stepping away for the moment to go make coffee for both him and Hizashi. Hizashi hits the record button on the device, and Kego takes a deep breath. Shit, wait. Aizawa calls from the kitchen, and Hizashi immediately turns the recording off. He sends an odd look over to the tired man who appears in the living room once more, pinching the brim of his nose. It's probably a good idea to get Tsukauchi over for this. Hizashi makes a noise similar to a sigh, and Kego's confused again. Who is Tsukauchi? He's a detective, kiddo. Aizawa leans over the couch, making Kego look up at him. I think it'd be a good idea to get him in on this. I wouldn't be surprised, however, if Nezu already did, but it'd be best if he was here for the recording. Again, if that's all right with you, Kego. Why does he need to be... I'm okay with it, but... confused? The hawk lets himself pout. He just wants to take a nap, honestly, go with Izuku to sleepland, and stay here. Not be bothered again by the real world ever. It's too weird. Okay, got it, thoughts. You can shut up for now. His quirk is why. Aizawa hums, and upon hearing the small ding from the kitchen, he leans back up. He's a human lie detector, and if he's here to confirm everything that you're telling us is the truth, we've got more to work with, and kid, we'll believe anything you say. So the only reason why we need Tsukauchi here is because other people are more hesitant to believe anyone young. Kego nods slowly as he watches Shouta enter the kitchen and come back out with 2 mugs of coffee. That was fast. Shota's right, sadly. Hizashi takes his more sugary coffee from the man with a kiss to his cheek, and wait, how did Kego not see this before? Are they married? Oh my god, they're married. Kego's so stupid. Sure, he was locked away for a while, but he still knew about marriage. How did he not put that together sooner? He gets snapped out of his own thoughts when Hizashi snorts and catches the amused look that Aizawa was throwing at him. Did he say any of that out loud? Uh-oh. Yes, we're married, kid, Aizawa confirms, making Hizashi snicker. He flicks the loud mouth on the forehead before going back to his lounge chair and sitting down. Oops, Kego murmurs, making Hizashi smile wider. That's nice. Sorry, I probably should have known sooner. He rubs the back of his head, flustered and embarrassed. It's not your fault, baby bird. We should have said something earlier. Hizashi has a fond look that Kego melts a little from when looking up. So caring. What Zashi said. Aizawa takes a long sip of his coffee, letting out a sigh afterwards. All right, kid. Are you sure that you're good with Tsukauchi coming over before we start? The hawk just shrugs. Yeah, He runs a hand through Izuku's curls again, messing with the ends as he lightly fidgets. He's not bad. He's a good man, and he'll be sure to make sure that you feel safe. Aizawa answers swiftly, leaving no room for doubt. Kego then nods with a sigh, burying his face into Izuku's fluffy hair. He has to turn his head over for air a minute later, cheek squishing against the top of Izuku's head now. I'll go ahead and call him. Then afterwards, if you have any questions for us before he comes, baby bird, just let us know. Hizashi stands up from the floor, taking his coffee and the phone with him to another room. Kego watches him go and contemplates for a moment. Questions. Yeah, he has a lot of questions. Takes a few minutes before Hizashi's back, and in the meantime, Kego decided to lay down. It was a better option over sitting. The hawk lays on his stomach with Izuku tucked underneath his right wing beside him. Kego's cheek squished down onto the cushion, and Aizawa had remained quiet during the short time, merely keeping an eye on his kids and typing away at his phone. He already finished his coffee, basically chugged it down as Kego watched. How? He'll be here in about an hour, Hizashi says, as he sits right down next to Aizawa this time, almost squishing the tired man on the side, but he doesn't seem to be too fazed by this, simply placing his phone down and promptly giving the loud man a flick to the side. Hizashi snorts and then takes the last sip of his coffee before placing it down on the coffee table. Okay, Kego responds, stretching out his arms up across the couch. So those, questions, can I... Go for it, kid. Aizawa crosses his legs and leans onto Hizashi, the other man smiling softly. Right. Kego pushes himself up, leaving Izuku laying down, but with an arm still on his back and a wing hovering over him. Okay, so the questions you have to ask me, it has to do with where I lived before, right? When both Hizashi and Aizawa nod, Kego hesitates before speaking again. He'll have to explain what his handlers did. He can do it. He has to be brave. If he's brave, he won't have to see them ever again. All right. The hawk hopes his frown isn't too deep, but he doesn't want to upset Aizawa or Hizashi. They're both just so nice, and he doesn't want to ruin it by being a nuisance to them. Who is Nezu? Sawa mentioned him. Nezu's the principal at UA High, Hizashi hums. One of the smartest beings out there. He's going to help you and little Zuzu out. How? Kego questions. Just because he's smart doesn't mean that he can help. His handlers were strong too. Is Nezu strong? Is Shouta and Hizashi strong? It's hard to explain, kid, but let's just say that he's scary to some people. Not us, of course. Well, sometimes, but that definitely was not something that was going on in this situation. Aizawa almost looked smug saying that. Kego's now suspicious, but he doesn't pry any more into it. So, he's coming too, or... Yeah, he'll want to meet you and Izuku. Then he'll leave. It won't take too long if that's okay. Aizawa confirms, watching Kego with those dark, soft, fond eyes. Yeah, that's okay. Kego nods slightly, then takes a deep breath as to calm himself. So I won't ever have to go back. He watches Hizashi and Shouta share a look that he can't define, and nervously looks down to the ground. The hawk doesn't look up as Aizawa stands along with Yamada, only momentarily flinching when they both crouch in front of him. You will never have to go back to anywhere you don't want to go. Not if I have anything to say about it. Your choices are yours to make, and only yours. I don't make your choices, and neither does Hizashi or anyone else in this world, got it? Aizawa lays a hand on Kiko's head, gently ruffling it up. The hawk doesn't know what to say, leaning into the touch that's way too nice. Exactly what Sho said. And again, as long as you'll have us, we'll gladly take you in, but it's all your choice, little listener. Hizashi earns a small, pitiful noise of gratitude from the baby bird, and he takes the kid's hand into his own. Whatever you need, just let us know. We'll be here. Kego lets out a sob at that, and shit, now they're hugging him. Is this what it's like to be loved? Later that night, when he's all cried out and exhausted from everything, there's a tug at his chest that tells him that it's all going to be okay. Well, maybe not everything, but right now and for the rest of his life, he finally has a family. And that's enough. All right, everyone. This concludes Chapter 2 of Fallen Baby Birds. Chapter 3 will be next. I hope you all are enjoying this one so far. And as always, thank you so much for listening.